Welcome back, Rav. Our first question is from our friend Shaya.
Yeah.
Asking, I'm really curious to know what my letter in the Torah is, as I learned in Likutei Moharan that every Jew has one letter. I feel like if I know my letter, I can know what my essential nature is and what my purpose is. Is there any way to figure this out on my own? If not, is there a way for someone else to tell me that?
To tell him what the letter is,
Yeah.
what specific the letter is. Okay, so the idea is, principally, the root of this idea really is in the Zohar. So there's a Zohar Chadash, which is like a later version of the Zohar that was revealed. So the Zohar Chadash Shir Hashem writes that the word Yisrael is an acronym for Yesh Shishim Ribu Oises LaTorah. There's 600,000 letters in the Torah. Sometime later, the Magal Amukas, a famous Polish 17th century scholar, great tzaddik, Reb Nosson Shapiro, speaks about this at great length, about this idea, that every single person is connected to one ois in the Torah, that there's a particular letter connected to the Torah. So there's a parallel between the 600,000 neshamas, souls, and the 600,000 letters. But the problem is that they're both not so accurate. So we'll start with the Torah. When it says that there's 600,000 letters corresponding to the 600,000 souls, in the Torah itself, there is 304,000 letters and 805 letters in the Torah, which is half that. It's not 600,000, it's literally half that. Then if you talk about souls, that we're talking about that every Jew is connected to a particular ois, a particular letter, and the 600,000 letters corresponding to 600,000 souls, but there is much more than 600,000 Jews. So what does it actually mean that there are 600,000 letters, and what does it mean that there's 600,000 souls? So with regards to the Torah itself, when it says there are 600,000 letters, yes, Shishim Ribu Oises LaTorah, there's 600,000 letters. And like we said, the Magal Amukas connects that's connected to the souls. So there's various different ways to understand it. For example, one way is the Pri Tzaddik writes in Shmois that it has to do with the shoyrish of the letter, the roots of the letter. That means, like, for example, the shape of the letter Aleph. If you really break it down, it's really a Yud on the top, a Yud on the bottom, and a Vav in the middle. Or it can even be a Yud, half a Vav, and then another half a Vav, and then Yud. So that's why you'll have the numeric value of 32, which is corresponding to the teeth. But there's different ways how to see the letters, which means that the letters themselves can be broken down in different ways. So the Pri Tzaddik says that the same thing when we talk about that there's 600,000 letters, we're not talking about the literal letters, we're talking about the shroshei letters, the sources of the letters. A similar idea is mentioned in Emes Liakar. Rav Kamenetsky writes that it has to do with the amount of yuds in every letter. Every letter has a yud. So in Aleph there's 2 yuds, but let's say in Gimel there's only 1 yud. So the little piece on the top is the yud. So and according to the amount of yuds you get it to 600,000. There's a little an older interpretation from the Chesed Avram. Chesed Avram was by Rabbi Avram Zalai, Yerushalayim, from Hebron actually, Mekubal, a great tzaddik, a grandfather of the Chidah. So he writes that that has to do with the filling of the letters. He writes as a Mayan Beis that has to do with the filling of the letters, which is that every letter, let's say the letter Aleph, has 3 filling letters. It's Aleph, Lamed, Pei. That's how the letters are filled. Beis is Beis Yutaf. So it has to do with the filling of the letters. And the trouble with that interpretation is that there's 3 times more, right? So it's 900,000. There's a Pnei Yeshua in Kiddushin of Lama. The Pnei Yeshua says, which is more a traditional, not so Kabbalistic answer. He says it has to do with the Targum, which will line up. That there's 600,000 letters also with the original translation of the Torah. So if it's 300,000 letters in Hebrew, we can assume that this is around that sum of the Targum. So we see that there's many different understandings of this idea. But what everyone is saying, what all the interpretations are saying is that when we talk about that there's 600,000 letters, we're not talking about a specific formation of a letter the way we define a letter as a letter. When we say it's the letter Aleph from the word Bereshis, for example. Or the letter Beis, the first letter from the word Bereshis. But we're talking about something else. We're talking about the Yuds or the Vavs or the broken down. We're talking about the Shir. We're talking about the root of this letter. And the same is also when we talk about neshamas. When we talk about neshamas, we talk about souls. That when we say there is 600,000 souls, so this is in the structure, the way that Arizal talks about this, is that there is something that's called Adam Kadmon, like the primordial being, and this primordial being is a structure that has different parts of body parts. Right? There's a head, there's feet, there's a heart, there's liver, there's different parts of the body, and there's a corresponding correlation between different parts of souls. So every individual soul is rooted within one of the 613. So I'm sorry, I didn't say how the number gets to 613. So there's 248 body parts and 365 main veins and arteries. The sages, the Gemara, and the Makkah says that the 248 body parts, 248 positive mitzvahs correspond to the 248 body parts. And the Zohar says that the 365 Loisa say the prohibitions of the Torah correspond to the 365 main veins and arteries of the body. So there's a correlation between the mitzvahs, which is our doing in this world, what we're supposed to be doing in this world, and the body. Now the soul enlivens the body, so we can assume the way, if we understand in this structure, that just as there's 613 body parts, there's 613 soul types. Every soul type is rooted in a particular type of body part. Correspondingly, there's a particular type of mitzvah that's connected to one of those 613. These 613 means there's 613 souls, but there's much more than 613 souls. So these are the meta roots, like the deepest root, deeper than even the 600,000, which is the Shrash Yanashama, the roots of the souls, is even on a deeper level, the 613. Of course, everything comes from the one, but it's divided in one, and then it returns into 613, then it becomes 600,000, then it multiplies. Which means that first let's think about this in terms of how this is relevant in our life. So there's an idea, I think Mar also brings on the Shabbos, that there's something that's the sages call avuch b'may havazor tvei. Avuch b'may havazor tvei means your father, someone passed away, and one of the sages asks his colleague about his father. He says, "Your father, what was his particularity? What was the uniqueness of his character, and which particular mitzvah was he connected to?" So he answered him that it was tzitzis. What that means is not that his father didn't do all the mitzvahs. Of course, his father did all the mitzvahs that were possible for him to do, but it means that the lens through which he did all those mitzvahs was through that particular quality. So let's say tzitzis represents a type of remembrance, let's say. Okay, Mantisker, there's a remembrance. That Mantisker, there's an idea of remembrance. So the lens through which he did all his mitzvahs was through the lens of tzitzis. Or I'll give you a more simple way of defining it. Let's say a person is connected to a mitzvah, let's say to give charity. He's a very charitable person. Okay? So we'll say that this person that's a very charitable person, which means innately he's connected to giving charity, which means he's connected to the mitzvah of giving charity. Charity would be connected with the right hand. That would mean that he's connected to the right a soul rooted with another Kadmon, the primordial being, which is connected to the right hand. Now, this person enters into a body, and he does all the mitzvahs. She does all the mitzvahs. But the lens, the particularity of the way they do things is through the lens of chesed. They're a very expansive person, an open person, and giving person. And every mitzvah that they do is filtered through this prism of tzedakah, of charity. They're just charitable people, and that's the way their modus operatus, this is the way they function in the world, is through this charity quality. So this is with regards to mitzvahs, right? So what it means is that there's a mitzvah, you're connected to all the mitzvahs, and then there's the particular mitzvah which is connected to your soul, because you're rooted, let's say for example, in this image, you're rooted in the right hand of Adam Kadmon, of the primordial being, and therefore you have a soul that comes from that place. But of course you're a soul, a complete soul, which means you have 613 parts to your soul as well, which means you can think, you can feel, etc. Yet your individual self, your uniqueness is experienced and expressed through this prism of tzedakah, of charity. That's what the world of action. And the same is also when we think about this in terms of the world of thought or Torah. When Chazal or when Mukabbalim speak about this idea, like I said, the Megala Mukas is the one really the real strong source of this. When the Kabbalists speak about this idea that every single person is connected to a particular letter in the Torah, what that means is, and what it means is parallel to the same idea when we talk about it as mitzvahs. Just like when we say the mitzvah, there's a particular mitzvah you're connected to. What does that mean? That means that your tikkun in this world, your elevation, your soul elevation in this world, is to connect to that mitzvah in particular, and through that mitzvah, like we said before, through that mitzvah to do the other mitzvahs. Now, I'll give you this a little further. When a person knows himself, a person understands himself, they'll say, I am naturally a very a giving person. This is my nature. I'm a very charitable person. This is the positive quality. Therefore, I like to give tzedakah. And I'm drawn to it. But I'm also drawn to its almost inverse opposite, which is because I'm a very giving person, I'm also a person that doesn't have boundaries. Let's give you an analogy of that. So the way to know what your particular mitzvah is know yourself, like figure yourself out, which is kind of simple. Like see the patterns of the behaviors of your life that's drawing you to a particular action of doing, and seeing what are the areas of your life that you continuously stumble on. And they're always going to be the flip side of each other. Because you're such a compassionate person, and you're a person with a lot of chesed, with a lot of giving, and you just always want to give, you don't have a discipline. So therefore people walk all over you, or whatever the image is, this analogy. Or you're very strong and disciplinarian, but because of that you can't feel love. So in comparison to the positive is the overcoming of the negative. And that's really the tikkun. Your tikkun on neshama, your neshama comes onto this world to refine that midah, to refine that particular midah, which means in the positive to enhance it and overcoming its negative tendencies. As much as you can. Every person, according to their measure, will attain Elam Haba, a portion of the world to come. That's the tikkun. In the same way that we think about the mitzvahs, that there's a particular mitzvah that we're connected to, even though we do all the mitzvahs, but it's the prism through which we're connected to. It's the shoyresh, really. It's the root of our whole behavior. That's the same way we have to think about when we say that every person is connected to a particular ois of the Torah, the particular letter in the Torah, which means that there is a unique intellectual, because of your story, your background, your mental capacity, your upbringing. I mean, there's 1,000 different variables that actually create this context. But there's a certain way that you understand things that's unique to you. That even though, two people read and learn the same book, every person, if they're honest and they're fully engaged in the process of learning, there's going to be their unique twist or way of thinking about it that they're going to add to the unfolding of this idea. And that's what it really means on a very deep level, that's your ois of the Torah, that's the letter of your Torah. Which means the Torah is Hashem's wisdom, is divine wisdom that has to be revealed in this world. There's the Torah Shebiksah, which is the word of revelation, and then there's the word of the Torah Shebal Peh, which is the oral. The Torah Shebal Peh lies within the consciousness of people, of Klal Yisrael, and the revealing of Torah Shebal Peh is specifically through the revealing of your participation in this unfolding. So when you add your little or big chiddush, like your novel, specific way of seeing things, in revealing that aspect of the Torah, any aspect you learn, whatever you're learning, because whatever you're learning is going to be the you that's going to be involved in the process. If you can fully engage with yourself and say, okay, I want to learn this, and I want to say, how would I understand this? Let's put aside every other interpretation. I can read all the interpretations, but here's this text. What would it mean to me? How would I understand it? Based on everything that I know. That's your chiddush. That's v'sei chalkeinu b'soyer secha. Give us a portion in your Torah, means there's a chalkeinu. There's a very specific part of the Torah that was never revealed and will never be revealed without you. You are an important part of this great unfolding, this great link called the revealing of the Torah, that the Torah is not complete, just like in the world of souls. It's the same idea. Just like in the world of souls, that the final tikkun of Adam Kadmon, of this primordial being, is when every single aspect, dimension of the soul, in its tremendous detail, right? Because these are shrasha, these are root souls. And every single aspect will be revealed in all the various combinations until the end of time, where every single soul will reveal their specific quality in this world that's unique to them, and that's the way we recreate the image of Adam Kadmon, of the perfect soul of Adam of Adam in the story in the Garden of Eden, in the state of the Garden of Eden, the state of Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life. The same thing is also in the Torah. In order for the Torah to be fully revealed, its full potential of being revealed, when the Torah Shebal Peh lies within Knesset Yisrael, lies within the hearts of Israel, is when every single person learns Torah and reveals their uniqueness, their particular way of understanding it and revealing. And that's really what the ois is. That's the letter. The letter is your unique way of thinking about any text, any passage you read, to reveal it, to make sure that when we're learning, besides the fact that we're receiving, which is obviously a very important part of Torah, but there's a chiyuv, there's an obligation, la fashala, the Zohar says, to expand on it, which means what's the mitzvah, the chiyuv, the obligation in Talmud Torah, the mitzvah of learning Torah, the mitzvah of adding your unique knech. I don't know how you say knech in English, but your unique twist, something that a little tiny thing you can add, that's you. That's the sechel ken v'seir. That means that we're married to receive the Torah. And that's Shibon Beis Hamikdash. That's when we do that, we build a Beis Hamikdash, we build a temple. What is it? Why? What are these two things related to? Because when all the neshamas reveal their full potential, that's Mashiach. That's the time of Mashiach. So that's really boimek, really at a deeper level. That's what we're talking about when we talk about the letter of the Torah.
Amazing. So if I'm understanding this,
yeah,
kind of there's a parallel. A letter in the Torah and a soul are parallel.
Yeah.
And that just like a letter in the Torah is kind of like a prism, a unique prism.
Correct.
Of the Ein Sof, of the Or Ein Sof,
correct,
the infinite light of God, shining through the Torah. So to each individual soul needs to find its uniqueness as a unique prism for the light of God.
Correct. And the reason why you have a unique prism through which you're revealing the presence of Hashem in this world is because there's a unique root of your part in the Torah. That's your ois. Just like there's a unique root of your soul, which needs to be expressed, there's a unique seichel, there's a unique intelligence, there's a unique divine intelligence that has to come through you. So the ois of the Torah, the letter in the Torah, and the letter in your soul are one and the same. And you're rooted in that meta space. But if you want to know what that is, when someone's going to tell you, it's the base of Bereshis. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. If you don't know, I'm not saying it could be it could be that could be.
But you have to really know yourself.
Exactly. If you know that you are a base of Bereshis, what does that mean? Let's see, you'll say, there's a Rashis, there's a beginnings, and then there's an understanding of for the beginning. That I always I'm very good at starting things. I like new initiatives, but not just random things that Rashis goyim amalek, like the beginning of something and then it disappears. But I like to see things that are going to unfold. I like to start things that could develop. Then I like giving it over to other people, but I like to see it as fruition, but not me doing it. Okay, so you're rooted in the Bereshis. You understand? There's something. There's the stories of the Torah parallel the stories of our life. There's a lot of more Chassidic teachings, for example, from the Chayz of Lublin, Rabbi Lublin, and others. They talk about, let's say, for example, if a person needs a shidduch, person needs to find the right match. So then read the parsha, of Chayesar, where it talks about matchmaking. Because there's the meta root of all these ideas in the Torah, and they're expressed throughout life. So it's not if someone just is going to tell you this is your letter and you don't understand what that letter means, then it means nothing because it's just a letter. The real way to understand what your letter is know yourself. What is my unique contribution, spiritual, intellectual contribution to the unfolding of Torah? I like gematria. I like to add this, or I like to see these things in this way, and I like to tie things. I don't know. There's a trillion different ways. Every person has their unique way. Make sure you find it. Make sure you find that voice when you're learning. That your uniqueness is shining through in the process of that learning.